So Joseph says he's not part of the bidding team at his organization, but he wants to understand how he can support the bidding team when he goes back. How many of us actually do business development or handle bids in your respective companies? Okay, that is good. You're the ones I want to hear from. What challenges have you found? Yes, please. Okay, we are going to go through some of them. Yes, please. He wants to know what he has been doing wrong because he has never gotten any pre-qualification. Which industry are you in? Construction. Okay. NCD or NSD? NSD. Okay. Pre-qualification. Yes. To stand out. You're trying to get registered onto the National Supplier Database. Okay. Are you registered? Yeah, we are registered. Okay. You look like you want to say something. No, eh? Yes, please. They ask for? I see. Now they always ask for methodology. She wants to know how she can get her information in the right order. Last person? Okay, so we are going to go through. Luckily, Victoria Energies did us good. They printed out the entire presentation. We are going to go through. Sorry, we've started a little later than we hoped we would be starting. But my hope is that by 4 o'clock we should be done with this. I know people are thinking of picking their kids from school. So we are going to try and go as fast as possible so that we can do questions as well. Yeah? So compliance, we are looking at compliance in bidding, and we want to understand, someone who talked about why aren't we getting pre-qualified by these organizations. We want to know what have we been doing wrong, and I will also suggest that you please go, maybe I will request David to share the links for the presentations that we did, the trainings that we did. They were online, but we covered some of that, some of those details at length. So it will be very beneficial. So we want to understand compliance, of course, has the aspect of the statutory, that is the laws, legal, the financial, and administrative. We need to know the requirements as far as oil and gas is concerned. Again, by the end of our session today, our hope is that you will know that compliance is a foundation in bidding, especially in oil and gas. I think you keep hearing health, safety, HSE, and so on, compliance. Most of us have concentrated on the legal bit. We have our companies registered properly. We have our memorandums and articles of association. We are tax efficient. But I think we have been neglecting health, safety, and environment. But I've noticed that in the oil and gas sector, if you've done any bids for Cnooc, for Cnooc, Petroleum Authority of Uganda, they are always so big on health and safety, so we will also cover that. So we are going to start off with the 4 pillars of compliance. Do we need to cover? Okay, we need to know why compliance matters. It will demonstrate that you're legally registered as a company. Someone was asking me, is that an issue? I'm like, yeah, you cannot just go to someone's country or someone's village. In Uganda now we are not so strict. There was a time, I'm told, where if you moved on to a village, you needed to go report yourself to the LC, introduce yourself, where you're coming from, present a letter from the previous village where you had been staying, like you tell the LC chairman about yourself. I don't know how many of us do that anymore. The boundaries are kind of mixed together. But as far as companies and businesses are concerned, the contractor, in this case, let me use Cnooc. If Cnooc wants to do business with you, they want to know that you're legal, you have the permission of the government of Uganda and its representatives to do business in Uganda. So that down the road, they are not doing business with you, and then they start fighting legal battles of how did you get that person to do business. I tell the owner is a different person. Maybe they thought they've been seeing, sorry, I didn't get your name. Linda? Leila. Maybe they've been seeing Leila, her face, and she's the one they are working with. Then they go to look at the documents, and there are different beneficiaries. I think we've noted that these days we are asked for the legal beneficiaries of the companies as well, because that was an issue. So the compliance, the reason we are asked to be compliant is because it shows that you're legally registered, and secondly, that you're financially sound. Most of us talk about briefcase companies. We need to know that your company is legit, not some random person came into Uganda, they registered a company, they are moving around with a briefcase, they are trading. So they need to know. I think that's why we are also asked usually for our physical addresses, all that stuff. Because the people that are going to do business with us do not want to go through, the drama of looking for them. When they look at your documents, the assumption is you're compliant. If a legal suit arises, someone will say, no, I got this person's documents and I know they are, legal because they've done that. That's how they do that due diligence. Of course, they will also want to know that you're ethically responsible. That falls mostly under HS&E. They do not, I think you've heard of, I had most of these cases during COVID, where I think some nationals, let me not mention the country, but they had a rice factory. And they had locked their employees inside so that the people keep operating. That is not ethical. And by force, it was by force. So I'm not sure how they had even taken their phones away from them. You didn't see those stories during COVID. So I'm not sure how these guys managed to maybe sneak a phone inside, call their people, say we are being held against our will because they are forcing us to work to package rice. So we need to know that your business is not engaging in that kind of behavior before you engage. But again, as we are going to see when we go on, it won't be about what you tell us, but what you also have on paper. And that is why in some cases you're going to need to have certifications, you're going to need to have licenses, because the licensing bodies will come to your premises. Usually they ask you a few questions, and they get to know that you're doing the right thing, you're doing business ethically. So compliance, I think I mentioned this in passing, protects the contractor. So if Cnooc or Petroleum Authority is contracting you, it's going to protect them from legal, financial, and reputational risks. Birds of a feather? Exactly. So the assumption is if I'm doing business with you, I am like you, we are in agreement, okay? That's why I need to know, what is your business like? How are you operating before I start engaging in business with you? In oil and gas, operators only engage suppliers who have full compliance across statutory, tax, and financial lines. Again, the contractor needs to know that your business is financially sound. You don't start business, they give you the contract, then you show up the next day asking for an advance. Can you pay me before I start work? Those cases have also been there. And then non-compliance is one of the reasons that companies miss out on getting involved in the oil and gas sector. The other thing we need to pay attention to, of course, as we go through, my hope is that each and every one of us will be noting and checking to see where you're doing well and where you need to improve, and maybe where you've been lacking, so that you can go and do something about it. But if you notice, well, I don't know whether anyone among us might say for them, everything is okay. For me, everything you're talking about, I have. Then the issue might be that you just have to sit back, but also keep bidding when the bids come out. Actively participate in what? In the bidding, because we have just started. The industry has just opened up. The opportunities are going to multiply. I think we've had a few players. My brother mentioned he's in construction. But right now, I keep seeing the same people because I think some of the projects that were being handled were big, and then initially they were strict on ISO certification. So we went through a training here on ISO and meeting the required standards, yeah? So I am hoping we are putting those things into practice, okay? Right. So under compliance, we have 4 main pillars, eh? And that is the legal. I've mentioned the legal and statutory compliance. This proves to the contractor that your company is legal and it is authorized to operate within the borders of Uganda. Again, we cannot go, none of us here, I don't know whether we have any Rwandese national here, but if we are all Ugandans, we cannot just wake up, go to Rwanda and say, I'm setting up shop. There are certain standards, there are certain requirements you're supposed to meet before you are allowed to start trading in someone's jurisdiction, yeah? So the second one is financial. I mentioned that briefly. We need to know whether you're tax compliant. We need to know whether you have the financial capacity to carry out the work that you're bidding for. So that is also one of the issues that could cause someone's business not to get qualified for a project, yeah? If someone wants to construct, there's that tower there under construction, which it's like a pyramid. Have they given it a name yet? Not yet. But that thing is huge, yeah? So if someone wants, that's the nature of the project that they want to put up. How many of us here who are in construction have the capacity to handle such a project? Yeah? To be honest. So again, we are going to be weighed and balanced against how much money, like when they look at our financials, that is also going to be a contributing factor on whether we win a certain bid or not. So even as we are working, let's not just sit back and be comfortable playing small as much as possible. Let's look for ways of expanding, ways of increasing our capital, because that is also one of the reasons that the bigger projects might not be coming to us, yeah? The third one, of course, is the administrative and ethical compliance. Here you show us transparency, authorization, and absence of conflicts of interest. We shall go into details later. It helps to build trust and ensure that you're practicing responsible corporate behavior. Health safety again shows up, and national linkage compliance. This is normally called national content. The people that are here, I think we all have good national content. It's not good for a company if you have expatriates all over the place. And the only work you're giving to the Ugandans is which work? Casual labor, eh? There are people who want to operate like that. If your company is operating that way, it might not be a favorable position for you to be in, because we want to avoid what has been called the oil curse in some nations, that you have a few players, a few local players, then you have so many expatriates, you have so many multinationals, and then when the money comes, it is there, yeah? But when these people make their profit, it all ends up leaving the country, and then the nationals are left very broke. Eh? So to avoid that, I think you've also seen they keep asking us to mention, to give like a list of your, first of all, of the beneficial owners of the organizations. I hope we all got the form. Is that Form 1, Company Form 1? Yes. So please get it. That is why they keep asking for it, because we need to prove who are the beneficial owners of your company, number one. Then sometimes they ask for the breakdown, what percentage of your employees are Ugandans, and so on and so forth. Let's not take those things for granted. Usually someone has a matrix and they are weighing you to see how well you're doing against another person's company. It's not just one thing as we are looking through, but it's a combination of all these aspects that at the end of the day, someone looks at and they decide, is this the best company for us to work with or not? Eh? Right, so let's look at the framework. We're moving on to, I think that would be page 4, maybe not page 4, but number 4. So under our bids, yeah, We've noted, for those of us that handle bids, Joseph, your people will tell you, usually they will be requested to submit bids with a financial proposal, with a technical proposal, and then sometimes another section which is named according to the contractor. They decide how they name it, but it normally will contain documents to do with compliance, where you're proving compliance, yeah? So under the technical proposal, we need to not take it for granted. Before I go into the technical proposal, we need to ensure that we are paying attention to the instruction to bidders document, because that is like the cheat sheet that the contractor gives us to ensure that we know what they want us to submit. But I think I've noted a few companies have the habit of, you know how you get what titles do your bidding people have? What do you call them? Business development officers? Huh? Procurement manager. Okay. So your procurement manager sometimes thinks they know what, like after a while you think these are the documents they ask for. So at times they do not bother to read the instruction to bidders document. They just compile documents and submit. That is costing most companies and businesses the pre-qualification, let me say. So as much as possible, your procurement managers or procurement officers, after they prepare the bids, please get someone else to look at those bids, preferably in management, to check and be sure that the documents that they have submitted are actually what was requested for. And in addition, to ensure, I don't remember whether we mentioned that here, to ensure that the documents are still valid, because there is also an issue of someone has a file for 2024, has a file for 2023, because some people ask us for 3 years. Please submit your trading licenses for the last 3 years. And then somehow they put documents in, and unfortunately they forget 2025, okay? That would seem like your business is now not registered or not currently trading under 2025. So please, let's pay attention to that. So to the instruction to bidders, ensure that you read through the instruction to bidders. So under the technical proposal, again, the point I wanted to note is that we need to ensure that we read and see what have they asked us to submit in the technical proposal, because not all organizations ask for the same information under technical. Generally, you'll find the qualifications and all that, but sometimes they have certain things that they ask for that are different from the previous prospect, yeah, the person you are bidding to. What should I call them? Client, contractor. They differ a little bit. Some of the things are similar, yeah, but there's usually differences. So you need to pay attention to see what have this person asked us to present in the technical proposal. Secondly, if they say that we separate them, because some people tell you just submit a bid, submit 3 copies. Yeah? Other people say submit a technical proposal, submit a financial proposal, and then they even have instructions on how you're packaging them, whether they are going into one envelope and all that. Please ensure that you always look at this information to know that you're not submitting wrong things. The challenge is, especially with oil and gas, the competition is a lot. I know a few people maybe now might be thinking, I don't think I qualify. But the more I think, let me say, we need to have some stick-to-itiveness. Keep bidding. And then try and call the contractor. Why wasn't my bid successful? Some of them are kind enough. Me, I tell my people to do that. You call and ask, why wasn't my bid successful? And they will tell you. I think there's someone who told me they were told they had not submitted their company code of conduct. No, they submitted their company code of conduct, but this was a government parastatal. And I think we know now, do we know what we are required to do for parastatals, government bidding? Anyone? Yes? Louder, please. Yes, you do. But regarding the code of conduct, what? Exactly. If you're bidding to any government agency, even if they've not asked for the code of conduct, please go to the PPDA site, extract that code of conduct, have your managing director or someone in management sign it. You have to include it. So these people had not done that, and that is why they did not qualify. But you could say, but you didn't tell us to include that thing. They're like, but we told you to include the code of conduct. They had included theirs internally, okay? So look out for those small things. And the good thing about bidding regularly is you keep learning. This is where I went wrong last time. So this is what I need to look out for. You will know if you're bidding to anything that is owned by government of Uganda now, you need to include certain documents, even if they have not put them in the instruction to bidders. Anyways, so under technical, yes, you will need to include qualifications like people in construction, people in medical. You will need to include what makes your business or your people, your staff members qualified to do the work you're bidding for, okay? So maybe let me go in order. And you will need your company profile that should have some detail of what your business does, what it has done so far, who are your existing clients, a little bit. I think your profile should also have some contracts you've worked on. It should have your addresses. Like, try and look out, go and check what are the qualities of a good company profile. Because some people will have so many pictures, but little relevant information. Yeah? And then also some people, I noticed some people will tell you, submit a profile not more than 3 pages. While your company has a profile of 120 pages or more, like he has said. So you need, in that case, to reduce, condense it to what they have asked for. Because when this person gets your bid, and you have 150 pages where they said submit 3 pages, that already biases them against you. They think these people did not read the instructions, yeah? So again, let's pay attention to that. I mentioned the experience, the methodology. How do you intend to carry out the work that they have asked you or that you're bidding to do? We need to be serious about methodology. Sometimes people think, I don't need to submit this. Implementation plan, your work schedule. Some will even ask for the work schedule. Like, I know sometimes we think, I've not gotten the contract yet. You give me the contract, then I'll give you the work schedule. But they want to see it before to be sure that you will have a good work plan. And remember, they are going to be looking at your company and comparing it with another person's. If your methodology is better, that is going to give you an advantage. If your work plan is better, your implementation plan, definitely that gives you a cutting edge over the other people. And then I've mentioned the technical staff CVs. So if you're in construction, please, in the technical, ensure that you submit the CVs of your engineers, for example, or any other technical qualified person within the organization. Because that's how we know that you have the capacity, as far as technical know-how is concerned, to carry out the work that they want to award you. Is that clear about the CVs? Yes. So of course we mentioned the purpose that these are needed is you will be demonstrating technical competence and understanding of the assignment. So imagine if someone is bidding to provide medical services and you don't have a single doctor on your staff. If it were you, would you give that person that contract? We get it? So for that matter, if the work you're bidding for is technical work, I know things like stationery, you might not need, for stationery, I don't think you need a technical person, yeah? But if you're doing things like medical, things like construction, what else? For people in transport, you're going to need to submit your licenses for your drivers, and usually if they have done defensive driving, you submit their defensive driving certificates because that shows that your people are competent. Clear? Okay. So do we need, I think I already mentioned about the common mistake, that is people mixing data where it's not supposed to go. Oh yeah, I want to be sure we are handling time well. So commercial, under the commercial or financial proposal, again, like I said, please look out for what have they asked us to include in the commercial proposal. I don't remember which organization under, sorry, the financial proposal, yes. There's an organization that requested the bidders to submit their price list online. But to submit the price list with a passcode, it had to be locked. It had to be locked. You submit it, email, but lock it. And then at opening, people are supposed to submit their keys so that they lock it when you're all online and you're seeing it. Now you can imagine the chaos, what some people did. Some submitted in the physical documents which were requested for. Others submitted online but didn't know how to lock and didn't find out how do I lock the document. Yeah? And that led to disqualification, because I think we know why pricing is important, to keep it secret until needed. Do we know why? Why? Yes, please. Wow, I hate that the mic can't get to you. Yes, competition, but also to avoid collusion. So imagine I'm Joweria's birthday. Then I open people's price lists, and then I tell her, Joweria, these people have quoted 1 million, you quote 950K. You see, So already that is going to kill competitiveness, because I am favoring her. Other people have done their work well, they have done their quotations, and then instead of letting her quote according to her costing, I'm giving her inside info of you quote this much. She ends up winning the bid when she wasn't maybe the best candidate. So usually some people, that's why I think you've noticed, that they will tell you, separate the financial proposals. In fact, usually they are opened at a different stage, and they will look at those envelopes to ensure that they are still sealed, no one tampered with them. If it's online, that's why sometimes we might be requested to make sure our documents are locked. Again, where we get this information is from the instruction to bidders, because not all bids are equal. The only way we find out what this particular contractor wants is by reading their instructions to us. Okay, so the financial proposal will include cost breakdowns, unit rates, price conformity forms, payment terms, bank details, and currency declarations. Still, some bids will have a form where you're just filling out. Some they tell you, present this information, okay? So it's up to you to ensure that you're printing all that information out clearly and you submit it within that bid. The purpose of the financial proposal is it will allow the evaluators to assess value for money and financial soundness. Like I mentioned, if you want to buy, let's say, a lectern like this, usually you'll have an idea of what, you might have done some shopping around, figure out how much would it cost, yeah? Then you ask people for their quotations, and then one person says 1 million. And then another person says 50,000, yeah? But your shopping gave you how much? 250,000. Already the one of 50,000 will leave you questioning, did they understand what it is that we want? Then the one of 1 million, you're still wondering, did they understand what the company wants? So as much as possible, we need to ensure that we are doing our costing with outside guesswork. Don't guess. Sit down, work out what it is that, that some people are going to ask you to even do I think in construction it's common, when you're doing your bills of quantities, that you indicate cement costs this much, so we can say, oh, he costed cement at this much. Maybe that's why his prices are high, but can we go back to him and find out which cement are you quoting? We want this particular cement, or we can use a different type. That helps when they're evaluating to be able to come back to you. But when we are asked for the breakdowns, let's not be lazy and think, let me just put a block figure. Maybe we'll look at that in detail a bit later. So the common mistake that companies make, or some of us may have been making, is forgetting to sign. A price list has to be signed. Not by your procurement manager, okay, not by your bidding manager, but by someone with powers of attorney. Yes, please. The lights. Is David back there? Excuse me. We need some help with the lighting. It's affecting some people here. Okay. Was that clear? Yes. So let's move on to the compliance documents. The compliance documents are going to now be our legal documents. This must have been an error, financial, no? Oh, financial, a few times some people might ask you to put your audited books under compliance, yeah? So you need to pay attention to what did they ask for to be under the financial proposal and what did they ask for in other documents, yeah? So administrative as well, that's where we said issues like beneficial owners of the company, who are the company directors, registration of the company, NSSF things, insurance, declarations, authorizations, NSSF. People, are we registered for NSSF? Yes? Yeah, because that is big also, and I hope we know how to get those certificates, because we have to submit. You don't just say, I am registered with NSSF. You have to submit a valid certificate to show you're up to date. I hope we are doing that. That can also cause you to be disqualified because someone doesn't want to work with you. And then while you've started the project, you start having legal battles with your employees of this one is not repeating NSSF and so on and so forth. So now they are mandated to get this information beforehand, which means if they notice you do not have some legal compliance, you get disqualified. Okay, what happens when you're non-compliant? I think that is automatic. Disqualification in some cases. At the very, very beginning, you may be able to do all this other stuff. You have the technical capacity, but you're missing a few small certificates that you thought you took for granted. Maybe you have state-of-the-art equipment, and you have submitted your things properly in your profile, and you think these guys are going to get impressed because I have the equipment. But you've missed out on some compliance issues that is going to cost you successful bidding. Of course, there's also loss of eligibility for those that submit forged documents. People are bold. I've heard of cases where someone forges a tax clearance certificate. These days, those documents are so easy to verify. So I would say, people, please desist. Stay away from trying to forge a document. There's a time where you had to walk to URA, get the certificate, no online presence. But these days, it's just a matter of scanning the document. Hey, and someone can see, is this valid or not? Is this for, XYZ company or not? So please, let's avoid doing that because it ruins your eligibility for future bids. Financial penalties or suspension. If false information is found later, some people ask us for bid securities, yes? So these, sometimes you're going to end up losing that money if they realize you are wasting their time. They ask you for information, you submitted forgeries, or you gave forged information. Again, you lose eligibility, but it will also cost you financially. And then loss of credibility with the regulators. Imagine you've provided, let's say, a forged NSD certificate, and then now you go to them that you want a certificate. Do you think they are going to give it to you easily? Huh? I think they might first put you on a seat, tell you, your work will become more difficult before you get certified on that database. So let's avoid doing that. Right, statutory compliance, I'm going to skip that. I think it's clear. Let's move to registration and legal identity. So under company registration and legal identity, of course, we are going to, all our companies need to have, to be incorporated, and the proof of that is the certificate of incorporation, right? So, of course, this means that you have legal proof that your company exists under the laws of Uganda. Common mistake, people submitting forged certificates. Forged certificates, again, this information is, so I think URSB, at the URSB site, on the URSB portal, someone can easily find, is this company in existence or not? So as early as now, let's get our businesses registered properly. Those documents are easy to get. They are no longer so difficult. Back in the day, you needed to go to the offices and sit and bench, but I think most of those can be gotten online now, right? Yeah. Then the form of shareholders and directors. I think I talked about why this is important, because it shows the ownership and the decision makers. We do not want to have a company. You're the face we are seeing. When we look at the documents there, we are seeing a John Smith and Obahu, nationality Canadian, nationality, I don't know, Belgian, and so on. Like, it's okay for those people to be doing business, but we need to know at the beginning. They need to know so that they can verify according to their needs and requirements, okay? So let's ensure that we submit these documents when we are asked to do that. Memorandum and articles of association, again, this will define your company's objectives and powers. So the evaluator needs to know whether your objectives match the contract scope. We've mentioned maybe your MEMATs limited you to doing a certain kind of business. Let's say you've done memorandum and articles of association and you locked yourself, you put yourself in the boundaries of you are going to do construction and construction only, yeah? And then suddenly you realize, but supplying hardware materials is good business. So let's start selling hardware materials. Your memorandum and articles of association need to show matching information, yeah? So do not just submit. How many of us have read through a memorandum and articles of association? Few. When the lawyer gives you, you're like, hey, you're done. Put in the briefcase, start circulating when you ask for MEMATs. So let's go and check the scope. What did we register for? Because that could be an issue. They might have. And you know how documents, these days we have this habit of copying and pasting. Someone has a file somewhere, you go, I want to open a company, Joseph and Sons. So he opens for you, and in there are other names. In there, the other person was running hotel business, and they didn't change for you. So let's go and check that what we have is actually what we are doing, okay? So moving on. Hey, tax and NSSF compliance. Compliance shows up again. So I'm sure all of us here have TIN numbers for our businesses, right? Right. So here, just avoid confusing. Some people ask for TINs for your technical staff, for example, or if you're a consultant, and maybe a few times you've been submitting your TIN. And then you come here and where you're supposed to fill out the organization or the business TIN, you put your personal TIN and the reverse. Please ensure that you're putting the right TIN in the right place. Of course, it's required for all tax obligations and invoicing. I think these days with IFRIS, all of us have to have the TIN, unless you're running a cash business. And while that is good, in oil and gas, who is going to pay you cash? So already that will be an issue if you submit and they ask you for bank details and you're like, me, when I do the work, I show up, you give me my cash. It's not going to work, okay? Tax clearance certificates, these ones are also easy to get now online, so let's ensure that we get our books in order. Avoid submitting expired certificates or submitting certificates in the names of other companies. A few times you'll find organizations being similar, like maybe your bid manager did not pay attention. The last let's say they did a tax clearance certificate for Cnooc, then now Cnooc wants, and they put the one for Cnooc, okay? Other times you find companies having similar names. Let's say Standard Bank maybe, and then Stanbic Bank, then this person didn't pay attention. Like, these guys look at this. So please ensure that the documents you're submitting are in line with the contracting body you're bidding to. NSSF clearance certificate, I talked about this. It matters because it shows that you're complying with the labor laws of Uganda. You do not want to be running around looking for these documents at the last minute. Hey, we need clearance. Because these little things, if, show of hands, how many of us here are registered with NSSF and are up to date? You see? I don't know that the few that did not raise their hands didn't do so because, well, you think, I don't want to raise my hand. But if it's true that you don't have it, you notice that nearly 90% of the room is registered, which means if we are bidding for the same contract, there is no way the contractor is going to pay attention to you when there are so many other companies available. Already that means you're disqualifying yourself. So please ensure, of course, the biggest issue with NSSF is while we are compliant is failing to get up-to-date certificates. A bid is advertised, and then you try to get the certificate. I think NSSF takes how many days? Like 2 days, eh? So 2 to 3. 2 to 3, eh? So imagine your deadline is coming, you forgot. Because they do 2 months, eh? 1 month. Yeah, so they do 1 month. Imagine you forgot, the deadline is coming, and now you're waiting for that document to come through, and it is not. Then you end up submitting an expired one. You see, eh? So those are issues. But also, I've had a few cases where someone submitted their certificate and it was valid, eh? So imagine your 1 month was ending today, bid deadline was yesterday, and you submitted yesterday, okay? And your certificate was expiring on the 21st. Then the evaluator, when they get the document, and now they're evaluating, this is October, they're evaluating in end October, they think your document is expired, yes. That's why it's important to call and find out, why wasn't I successful? Yes, it helps, because sometimes you'll just tell them, no, but at the time the deadline you gave us, our document was valid. Error is too human. So sometimes these people actually do make mistakes. But when you call, and if you're sure you submitted the right thing, call and find out. And I normally also advise that you keep a copy of every bid you submit. It might not be a physical copy, but do scans. After the evaluation, you can always delete. I think space, hard drive, or what, cloud space is an issue these days. Big documents, you're wondering, where am I going to store all that? But after the evaluation, if you're sure everything is in order, you can delete it. But it helps because when someone then tells you that what you submitted was expired, you can go and check to confirm, did I really submit an expired certificate? Because the option is to be there wondering, did we really? We are not sure when you're also not sure. But if you're sure, you just go to your file, check, and you're like, but what we submitted was valid. Yeah. Also, some might tell you you missed out this document. Because it's possible to miss a document. But if you have your file, you will go and check, did I really miss that document or not? Eh? So please always keep a file. Tell your bid managers to just scan. I know some people feel like it's a lot of work, but it saves you a lot to have a file somewhere where you can go back and check if they tell you you are not pre-qualified, okay? Trade licenses, these are local authorization from the government agencies or the local governments that you're allowed to do business in those areas. Now, biggest mistake is submitting expired licenses as well, or from wrong locations. Eh? If you have your business operating in more than one location, it's okay to submit for all the locations, because sometimes you might want to say, I'm bidding for not just Kampala, maybe if they're doing Western Uganda, you do that. But ensure that that also shows in your company profile that you have the locations. And avoid bidding, you're bidding in Kampala, and then the license, you want to do work in Kampala, let's say. You have a location in Entebbe, then you start submitting documents for Entebbe. Align as much as possible to where you want to do the work. If you have multiple locations, submit for all the locations. Yes? Occupational health and safety. Hey, registration. This one has started showing up in bids, I noticed. So, especially for people who are running factories and industries, warehouses, you're going to need to have your premises verified that they meet safety standards. And this will be given to you by officials from the Ministry of Gender, Labor, and Social Development. Yes? So documentation, a lot of documentation is popping up. The evidence that you need to submit to show that you're compliant is your copy of, you'll be issued a registration certificate, so you need to submit that. Of course, the common mistake is all of us ignoring that. We'll be like, me, I'm not going to get this, this certification. If applicable for those, is there anyone here in sanitation business, waste management, mining? There are some businesses which, if they have an impact on the environment, you're going to need to have certification from NEMA. Yeah? And for that matter, you'll need to submit a valid certificate. If your business doesn't have any environmental impact, then you're good. It's not a must to have that. Registrations with industry bodies. Someone talked about the National Supplier Database. It's a must. It's mandatory for anyone that wants to take part in the oil and gas sector to be registered on the National Supplier Database. Are we all registered? Yes? Anyone still? We are all registered. Okay, that is good. Because it's mandatory, in the beginning, I think some people thought it's an option, but now we know it's mandatory. Now, of course, the benefit of being registered on the NSD, I think Leila mentioned, what would help us to stand out more is to ensure that all your documentation, because they ask us to submit various documents, legal, compliance, and all that. And that helps for you to be noticed by even people outside Uganda. Before we get registered on the National Supplier Database, of course, I mentioned they ask for various documentation about your company. So it's like they've done due diligence on your organization or your business. So someone who does not know Leila and Company, when they see, her company is there on the National Supplier Database, it adds weight to your name. They'll feel comfortable and confident doing business with you. Like I mentioned, I don't know, has anyone gotten business or gotten noticed because of presence on the National Supplier Database here? I know you have. Be bold and say. So that others, okay, is it okay if I say raise your hands? So that others don't think it's a waste of time to be on the database, yeah? Anyone? I'm seeing people nodding, but they don't. Okay, I know you're getting noticed. Like I mentioned, I know business is going to pick up more and more as we get more, as the oil and gas industry picks up. We know we are have we even started? Okay, we started, but I wonder if our starting can be counted as starting. Because there's starting the car, then there's the car moving. Is it moving? Yes, so the opportunities are going to come up. And these trainings are helping us to ensure that we are ready. That when they tell you, okay, now, You're then contracted to do this. You're not running around to say, now I don't have this. Can you help me get the other? Can I use the one for your company? And so on. Just ensure that you have your documentation in place. PPDA registration, of course, this is for public tenders. If you want to take a part in public procurement, you need to be registered on the PPDA site. And of course, they'll also give you a certificate. For PPDA, they also renew annually. Yes, so please avoid sitting back. I advise people to use your phone calendars. These are very good tools for reminding us. You just put in a reminder of this certificate is expiring on this day, so that before it expires, you start on the renewal process. That at any one point when you need a renewed document, you're not caught off guard. Yes? Right. Renewing is annual. Professional licenses for consultants. Again, if your business is technical, please ensure, like for doctors, I think you need to be a member of the medical, what is that? Medical association? Wow, the thing has gone. But the professionals know. Engineers, you have your body. Doctors have their body. So if you're supposed to be certified by those bodies, please ensure that your staff members are certified. And then when you're submitting your bidding documents, you include those certificates because they show that you have professionals handling your business. We are not going to give you a contract, then you start running around looking for, now which doctor should I add on the team to do the work? Okay. Common pitfalls. Submitting documents without seals or signatures. I think there are documents that are like audited books. I think your audited books need to have seals, okay? Our HS&E, we've been talking about this a lot lately. Our HS&E documents and manuals need to be signed. Don't just have a policy and it's just dry. Those ones need to be signed. So again, I'll refer you back to those trainings that we had at the beginning of last week. I'll find a way, because I think we all received email invitations, right? Yeah, so I think I'll request David to send the links for those presentations so that you can go through, and your teams. I don't know, it seems like a few people missed the training. But we talked in detail about the need to have documentation signed and to have it adopted to your industry. So let's ensure we do that we submit stamped and signed originals. Yes, for price lists especially, I talked about the financial proposal, that it should bear your company seal, company stamp, and it should be signed by someone with powers of attorney, okay? Don't just get anyone to sign. If they ask us to initial all pages of the bid document, please initial, starting with the very first page, the cover page, yeah? And numbering. Some tell you initial and number. Again, that rules out what we talked about with, the name has gone, but what we talked about of someone maybe pulling a page out of your document. We know some people can say, you didn't submit this, but if we see that the numbers are in order and then number 24 is missing, of course that is easy for the evaluator to know something is wrong, someone tampered with this person's bid. So if they tell us please number from cover page, do that. If they tell us put initials, let's do that. Follow the instructions in the bidder's document. On registration, people using their personal registrations as opposed to company registration details. We talked about issues like TINs, their personal licenses. If we ask for a license, we want the license for your business, not your practice license. Again, pay attention to figure out what exactly is needed of you and ensure that the licenses you're submitting are up to date. Mismatched information across documents. This is common with people that have different business names and trading names, or if you changed your company name, or if you changed directors. that you have different directors in one page, different directors, like different names. Of course, we know sometimes some companies change directors maybe every 2 years. That is expected. A few times people die. But do not forget to change your company documentation. Ensure that all your documents are aligned, that you have the same names, you have the same beneficial owners. They are not asking you for directors, particulars of directors, different names. Then the powers of attorney, maybe there's a different name. Then the signatory is a different person. Please, let's ensure that we submit information that is matching. Of course, the other thing that will help us, which I mentioned before, is to always get someone, have someone in management, another person to look at the bid that your bid officer has worked on. I've seen cases where someone is rushing, they know you expect them to do the bid, so they compile documents. I've not paid attention to what am I submitting, but they just think if it is thick, it will hold water. So they put things, and then you go through the bid, and hey, if it is thick, they think it will pass because I've submitted so many documents. But, like the story of, I don't know if you heard of that person who was asked, Ngoni migration was which class? Senior O level, Hey, that they asked them to describe whatever, something about the Ngoni migration, and they had misfired. They read something, and so they're like, before I tell you about the Ngoni migration, let me tell you about Maji Maji Rebellion. And they went ahead to answer Maji Maji Rebellion. So please, this stuff will get us disqualified. Let us avoid submitting things that we are not asked for. But we know employees. I'm not sure how many people here are in management in your organizations. If you want to be successful in bidding, at times you're going to have your employee, I don't know, distracted. He spent the whole night watching Netflix. Then bid time comes the next morning, he's tired or he forgot the deadline, he or she, then they just come and they're like, okay, the only way to do this is, let me just get, I know there has to be certificate of incorporation, there has to be memorandum and articles of association. They get a few documents there, they miss the HS&E policies, which in oil and gas, I think you've noted, those of us that have done bidding, you've noted HSE is like certificate of incorporation. These now are like mandatory documents to be in there, yeah? And then they miss all that, and you sit back and you're wondering, how come you're not getting pre-qualified? Please look at the quality of the bids that your people are submitting, yeah? Check that. Before they submit, you might be wondering, you know you have everything. The first thing you need to do is check what are they submitting out there, because you might be thinking the problem is the other side, but the problem is in-house. Yes? Okay, we've talked about failing to renew documents, and then for online submissions, not verifying attachments before uploading. You have documents named Scan 1, Scan 2, Scan 3, PDF 4, PDF, I don't know what, 11, and then they think, I think certificate of incorporation was PDF 111. And yet somewhere in there, maybe they deleted something and the document name changed. And now where you're supposed to have certificate of incorporation, they are attaching NSSF certificate. Then the evaluator is opening your documents. And by the way, the other thing we need to remember is, I don't know how many of us have been in teaching, that the teacher has 100 pupils' papers to mark. So when we submit our bids, imagine this person has, how many of us have been involved in submitting bids? Then you go there and you see those packs and you see people have stacked envelopes from the floor to the ceiling, and not just one row. Now feel for the person who is going to go through, or the team that is going to go through your documents. For you, you know your documents. You know, this is my TCC, this is my... For them, they have to go through, imagine if all of us here bidded, and we are very few, by the way. And then this person has to go through all that documentation, and then for you, where you're supposed to attach your certificate of incorporation. Instead, you have the tax clearance certificate. Other people, maybe the person has downloaded, but you did not name it correctly. You have scanned this, scanned this. Name it what it is. Say maybe TCC, and then your company name. Yeah, that helps. That even if somehow they downloaded and it ended up in there, if they use the search function of TCCs, they can easily find you. Maybe here I will also talk about some of these online bids. They ask for a specific subject line. Maybe they tell you the subject should read Cnooc 2025 construction. That is what you should have in the subject line. And then people don't follow directions, they put whatever they want to put. Remember, this person, maybe there's been construction, maybe there's catering, maybe there's compound maintenance, waste management. So for them, they are going to their email and searching by, okay, now I'm going to waste management. Get all the submissions, download, and evaluate. Now you named your document, you put a wrong subject line. It means it will never get found. Again, let's ensure that we are paying close attention to the instructions that we are given, because those little things are costing us. And if we have not been following up, some people, like I mentioned, some people are good. They will tell you, no, you failed, because they evaluate with templates. So they will know Joseph's company. The issue they had was maybe an expired license, yes? So they can easily go to that template and see. Some people, I think, just look through. They are not noting anywhere. That when you ask, where did I go wrong? They have no idea. They just sorted through documents, and whatever did not meet standards, they just put aside. And it might be difficult for them to tell you what the issue was. But again, if you internally, you're keeping copies of your documents and you're told we did not succeed, it might be easy for you as a manager to go and say, but let me go and see what happened with this particular bid. Of course, that also costs time. That's why it's important to do the right thing from the very beginning. Evaluate before your people submit the document. Have someone look at it so that you're sure that what they are working on is what you have asked them to, what they have been asked to submit. Online, the other, I think here, the issue of labeling, the issue of attaching the wrong document in the wrong place, the issue of subject line, and of course also always ensure that you're submitting timely. Online platforms have this bad habit of, I don't know that because at the last minute we are all sending. So you send your document, you think it has gone. And then 15 minutes later, you see whichever email service telling you, either address not found or mail not delivered due to I don't know what issue. So please, let's ensure that you give yourself ample time. And usually it's good to try to compress your bid so that it's not so big. Because I've also had issues where people submit a bid and you think it has gone. I think, let me not mention the email platform, but we use it commonly. We all use it. You submit and you think it has gone. Then later it tells you, your attachment is too big. But you thought it had gone, yeah? Which means you're going to miss out on time. So also, as far as time is concerned, and I didn't ask what your position is in your company, but I keep feeling like I need to answer this question. Very few employees are going to tell you, by the way, that bid, it didn't go. So if you're not on the same platform, for you, you'll think we submitted. They tell, yeah, we submitted. But the thing didn't go. And they don't want to get into trouble, so they don't tell you. So also find a mechanism of reviewing to be sure that these documents are being submitted. Exactly. Now, a little bit, people are laughing. I think they have done these things, or they know people that have done these things. A little bit about financial compliance. What do you think we should cover under financial? Anyone? Yes, sir. Price. Okay. Yes. Sorry, turnover. Yes, they always ask for the turnover. Yes, ma'am. Audited books of accounts? Yes. Basically, the contractor will want to know how financially viable your business is. So you've noted, I know audited books are thick for some companies, really thick. Then they go and tell you, submit for the last 3 years. And you're thinking, why don't you ask me for 1 year? Because they want to see how have you been performing as time goes on. Eh? You might be a one-hit wonder. Eh? You performed quite well. Something happened in that particular year, and those are the accounts you want to submit. We all want to shine. Eh? So that's why they ask all these. But of course, basically, the contractor wants to know that you have the ability, we talked about this at the beginning, that you have the ability to carry out the contract, that they are, if they assign it to you, you're not going to become a problem. I've had cases of people being awarded contracts. Hey, wow. And then the next thing you hear, the person has gone on vacation. This is usually, I've had this in construction. Let me not mention which area of construction. Construction, large construction, where people are given advances. Eh? So the moment they get the advance, the next thing they are calling the person and they've gone to some other country. Now, if we see that you at least have some money, yeah? Your company has money, it's not like you're waiting for what the contractor is going to advance you for the project to go and cause inflation to whichever region you've chosen to go to. But basically, we want to be sure that you have the financial capability to carry out whichever work will be assigned to you. Some of the contracts right now I know are quite big, eh? And that might be one of the reasons that our companies have not been engaged yet. But eventually there's going to come smaller, smaller projects that can be handled. But the other reason that some companies have not been engaged, I know, is financial. That when they look at your books and the project that needs to be done and the timeline, because sometimes the work needs to be done quickly. I mean, if we wanted to buy, let's say, furniture for this hall, it might be okay to get someone who can supply 3 chairs per month. Eh? But if you want to start using the room immediately, you're going to look for someone who can get all the furniture at a go. We understand that. So yes, while I might want to work with you, but I realize that your capacity now is going to cause slow growth, and we want to get this done and move on to other things. So that's why we need to ensure that, of course, we are growing our financial muscle, but there are other issues that we are also going to be verified as far as our businesses are concerned. We talked about the issue of tax compliance. It's important to know that you've taken care of your legal, of what is expected of you as far as taxation is concerned. That is also a big issue. So remember that if you show that you're capable financially, of course that is going to show that you can handle the magnitude of the contract. If it's a huge contract, a few times they tell us how big the contract is, but I've noticed sometimes they don't tell us. And yet, if you go, you can find, if you call and ask what size is this contract, usually you can know. I know in transport there have been bids where they say they want cars which are, let's say, 2 years. 2 years old and below. People in transport, our cars young. Yeah, so some of that criteria, or anyway, construction that you'll be able to put up the structure without causing issues, you're not buying substandard materials, and so on and so forth. So, of course, under finances, there's also going to be the audited books of accounts and bank references. I hope we are maintaining good relationships with our bankers. Wow, okay, let me run faster. So that's why we are normally asked for bank reference letters, and this has to be from your bank. It has to be on their bank letterhead, yeah? And signed, of course, and stamped. And I've noticed that most of the organizations now want those letters addressed to them. So the bank is not going to give you a to whom it may concern. If you're bidding to Cnooc, they will put this is addressed to Cnooc. So please don't recycle letters. send the right letter to the right organization. Audited financial books, financial statements, let's get I know the year is coming to a close. For those that run calendar year, we should have started on getting our books in order now. Statement of financial capacity, this one usually they'll ask you to state whether you can meet the criteria or meet the needs of a particular project. So don't just say yes or no, indicate, and if you have evidence, it helps that I have maybe this much money that can handle that particular project. Price schedule and its conformity, let's ensure that we are using, where we are given particular templates, let's ensure that we use those same templates. At times, we are given forms, and then you think they put a column for what? Sometimes they put columns that you think, I don't need this in my business. So you go, do your own table, and kick out certain lines or rows. Please avoid doing that. And if you're uncertain about what to do, they normally tell us, call this number for clarification. But the other issue that I've noted that people make, or the error people make, is to wait. Let's say the bid is issued, today is the 21st, today, and the deadline is December 2nd, for example. So we get the instruction to bid document, file it, because this one we have time. Forgetting that they said, if you have any questions or concerns, please submit them before, let's say 30th October. So by the time you have queries, the time for submitting queries has passed, and now you're on your own. Scan through the document just to see, is everything clear to me? Do I understand what is required of me? If anything is unclear, you call them or you write to that email and say what is supposed to go here, because it is not, there are some teachers that would give you exams and you're not sure whether they want you to pass or not. But for a bidder, for a contractor, if the bidder understands the document, it's for their benefit. So they are there to help and assist. So let's make use of those numbers and the emails that we are given. Let's ensure we go through the documents as early as possible, or at least just look at the deadline for asking questions, so that you ensure your question goes through before that deadline. So I hope we've noted that there are usually 2 deadlines, sometimes 3 in the bidder's documents. At times you have to submit, what are those forms called? There are some forms for some bids that you have to submit before, Maybe, some is acknowledgement, some want you to apply that you're intending to bid, Actually, intention to bid. Some want you to do that, and it should go in before a certain date. Then others, now there's also the deadline of by when you should have asked questions. After that, the expectation is everything was clear to you, okay? And then finally, the bid deadline itself. So please ensure that you've paid attention to all those dates. On price schedule, you have to give, if they ask you for a breakdown, it's not for all businesses, but I know for construction, usually you need to have, details. Sometimes even depending on the businesses, you need to have details. So again, look at the document, ensure that you've understood what is required of you, and quote or put in your pricing accordingly. Then there's a price conformity form for some bids. And this is usually for the unpriced, there are items that you might not be able to get pricing for immediately. They will ask you to submit a price conformity form, and it means that you're agreeing to the contract pricing terms, Of course, again, details would be sought from the respective contractor, because different people handle their bidding processes differently. Currency and exchange rates. Again, I've seen some people ask us to quote in US dollars, and in oil and gas, it's going to be common, especially if imports are involved. If it is local supplies, they will say UGX or US dollars, but please ensure that you know which currency the contractor has asked for, so that you don't put what you think is right, you put what they've asked you to put. Also, when we quote in US dollars, usually you're going to be asked to indicate what exchange rate you're going to use. So you need to be clear on that. Will you use the market rates, or have you worked out a particular rate that you're working with? So that when they are comparing, they are not comparing oranges and mangoes. If, for those that say, okay, you may quote in either UGX or in US dollars. If you include a rate, then they can easily convert and compare your pricing with the people that have quoted in UGX. If you don't, it becomes difficult to compare your bid to other bidders. VAT, tax treatment, and pricing rules. Ensure that, because I mean this is mandatory for all of us. Is there anyone in a business where they are not paying VAT? Okay, so remember, all bids have to include VAT, whether deemed or whether it's payable. Ensure that you include it. And the common mistake is people quoting exclusive of VAT without explaining. Your prices, your contractor is going to look at the prices. Remember, they compare the prices that we submit against other people. That is one of the criteria to see who is most. Some people consider pricing. Some tell you, of course, that just because you have the lowest price doesn't mean you'll be awarded the contract, because the evaluation criteria is wide. But price also plays an important role. So if you quote and you do not include VAT, and then now you're given the contract and you show up and say, by the way, now you need to pay me plus. You see the confusion, They might not feel very comfortable doing business with you in future, or you might have issues, because some people actually refuse to pay. Because they tell you, we clearly told you to include VAT in your bid and you did not. Issues, legal issues. Tax responsibility, ensure you're paying your taxes. Accuracy of pricing. The common mistake, okay, your price, when we are quoting, this is just a reminder, should reflect your costs, your labor, your transport, your insurance, your overheads, your profit. Do not come up later and say, by the way, when I was quoting, I did not include labor. This is common for, like what, service providers. I think for those of us that have cars, you know that when you go to the garage, these people normally tell you, okay, it's going to cost this much. Now imagine they've told you it's going to cost you 1.2. And you, in your head, you know, okay, 1.2, fine. Then after they do that, they're like, and labor is 700,000. You see, It doesn't feel good. You need, even you when you're quoting, ensure that you've considered everything. You don't show up later to the contractor and say, I did not include certain items, so I need to include them. When we are submitting our price list, remember they need to be signed and stamped. That's how we know that it originates from your company. No one maybe later tampered with your bid and inserted something which you did not submit. You need to own it. Your signature and your stamp shows that you're owning your price list. So please avoid under quoting or submitting weird pricing because you think you're going to be chosen for having very cheap products. If it is a Samsung phone and everyone knows that, is there a Samsung phone for less than $1 million? A new one? Sure. You see the reactions we are getting. But if you're quoting, so imagine we want to buy phones and we've told you